Today's look at the NFC and updated NFL playoff picture is made possible by RexMD. Go to rexmd.com/chat for 95% off and a free gift for the medication you need for ED. Here is the current NFC playoff picture following the very surprising and thrilling Eagles loss at the hands of the Seattle Seahawks. The Niners are the 1 seed. They are the only team in football with 3 weeks left to go that have clinched their division. That can change this week. Cowboys back in the 2 seed with the tiebreaker for now over Philadelphia. The Lions, the 3 seed. They're very much in the mix here for that 2 seed, by the way. Bucks have the tiebreaker over New Orleans. Then Eagles, the 5 seed. Vikings, Rams, tiebreakers over Seattle and New Orleans. A couple teams still alive as well. If you're wondering about the AFC playoff picture, it does look like this. Now, we're not going to spend much time on it because we already did. We broke down the entirety of the AFC playoff picture and the clinching scenarios that exist for several of those teams on yesterday's video. Go check that out. It will be linked in the comment section and the description of today's show. But also subscribe. That way you don't miss any of our playoff picture videos. The next one will be done on Tuesday morning after Christmas because the Ravens and the Niners, the 2 current number 1 seeds, are the final teams to play on Monday. They play on Monday Night Football. The Niners, the number 1 seed, by the way, at this stage, coming off a win over the Arizona Cardinals. They have a massive game for both teams. The winner of that game, by the way, moves incredibly close to clinching the number 1 seed, which the Niners have clinched the division. They have the Commanders, Rams to end the season. They have the tiebreakers over the Eagles and the Cowboys, and they'll win it over the Lions as well, basically. They're in really good shape. There are some extended clinching scenarios for San Francisco this week. They clinched the number 2 seed with a win over Baltimore and a Lions loss against Minnesota, or a win over Baltimore, and the Cowboys and the Eagles both lose their respective games. They can clinch the number 1 seed if all 4 of those things happen. Win over Baltimore, Lions lose against the Vikings, Cowboys lose against the Dolphins, and the Eagles lose against the Giants. Seems unlikely, but we are trending towards San Francisco with the tiebreaker already in hand being the number 1 seed in the NFC. The Cowboys come off a bad loss against the Buffalo Bills, a 31-10 score that was not as close as the score might indicate. They have the tiebreaker tentatively over the Eagles. Now, look, they clinched at least the number 5 seed with a win or Vikings loss. Seems likely at minimum the NFC East winner will be, the loser, I should say, will be the 5 seed. Here are the good time to mention the tiebreakers, by the way. Head-to-head is always number 1. Now, that can get wonky in 3 and 4 team scenarios because you can't always apply head-to-head there. Division record is then important in the head-to-head, especially in the same division where applicable, so you can get teams kind of knocked out there. Common games record, which sometimes applies enough. Conference record ends up being critical as well. Strength of victory, then strength of record. The way this would specifically work for Dallas and Philadelphia, division record, unless the Eagles lose to the Giants, is tied. Common games record could be tied. That would flip if the Cowboys lose to the Dolphins or lose to the Lions but beat the Dolphins. It's all very complicated. Eagles would lose to the Cardinals. It could flip there. Basically, if Dallas wants to win the NFC East, they have got to have another Eagles loss somewhere. And an Eagles loss somewhere would likely be enough for them to get in, even if tiebreakers. That's why Cowboys are big Giants fans for the division standpoint. We'll go more in depth on our Cowboys channel, by the way. But who wins the NFC East? C for the Cowboys or E for the Eagles? It's the pinned comment. The ad comes on YouTube. Take advantage of it and go vote. The Lions, the current number 3 seed here, they can clinch the division this week with a win over the Minnesota Vikings. It really is kind of that simple from that perspective. All they have to do, clinch the division with that win. They will be favored even though they are on the road. If they lose, there is still a playoff spot that they can clinch. Now, obviously, the win gets them in there. If the Lions lose or the Seahawks lose, the Lions would still get in. So, matter of when, not if, Detroit punches that playoff ticket. Today's show is made possible by RexMD. Fellas, do you sometimes lack some confidence in the bedroom? Do you wish you could have a more fulfilling sex life? You are not alone. That's why we are excited to tell you guys about RexMD, the online source for men's wellness. RexMD offers an easy and discreet way to get the medication you need for ED without having to visit a doctor's office. With just a few clicks, you can have your medication delivered straight to your door and at a fraction of the cost of traditional pharmacies. RexMD's team of licensed physicians will work with you to find the right treatment plan, and the medication is made in the USA, so you can trust its quality. If you want to take control of your sex life and say goodbye to ED, head on over to RexMD.com/chat and start your consultation today. It is the best they've ever offered. 95% off and a free gift with our exclusive link, RexMD.com/chat. So go to RexMD.com/chat for the limited time deal. Starter packs of generic Viagra or Cialis are now available. RexMD.com/chat to 95% off. The number 4 seed for now is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Jags game obviously matters. If Tampa wins out, they're going to get in. But that Week 17 game against the Saints looms insanely large. Tampa already beat New Orleans once. That would lock them into the tiebreaker on the plus side if they take down the Saints in Week 17. Plus the Panthers in Week 18. It's all coming up Baker for Tampa. Let's go back to the wild card standings here. The Eagles obviously in the best shape, but the Vikings, Rams, Seahawks, and Saints are all 7-7 with 2 spots, with the Falcons and Packers not fully out of it yet either. Let's begin with the Eagles. They lost against the Seahawks 20-17 in a game they really should have won, but regression to the mean, positive or negative, comes for us all at some point. They have clinched a playoff spot. Their schedule's not that hard, and they do control their destiny in the NFC East. Here is how they would clinch at minimum the number 5 seed. A win and the Seahawks lose, since they now don't have that tiebreaker anymore against Tennessee, and the Rams lose to the Saints or the Vikings lose to the Lions. So multi-step process there. Eagles will end up being a playoff team. By the way, they get the 6th seed with a Seahawks loss or a Vikings loss, by the way. But 3 straight losses for Philadelphia. They are trending in the wrong direction. Things have not looked very good for them. What is your panic level over the Philadelphia Eagles? Scale it for me from 1 to 10 in the comments section. Minnesota did not take down the Cincinnati Bengals. A painful overtime loss. And now that schedule gets just a little bit tight. Lions, Packers, Lions. I think 9 wins is probably going to have to be the magic number. Now, there might be a scenario in which 8 wins and tiebreakers gets you in. But you I think what the Vikings are hoping for, by the way, to upset the Lions once. Beat Green Bay in Week 17. Week 18, Lions aren't playing for anything. And Detroit's locked, which is very possible, which means the Vikings will be cheering for the Cowboys in Week 17 as well. But they got to take care of their own business first and foremost. Just above 50% playoff chance with a tough schedule. The Rams, meanwhile, how about this Week 16 matchup? Home against the Saints on Thursday Night Football. I would describe this as a must-win game for LA. If they beat the Saints, they should be able to beat the Giants. There's your 9 wins. That puts you in a really good spot in a game against, again, final week of the season, at San Francisco, a team that might not be playing for anything. All right, the 8th seed then is the Seattle Seahawks, snapping a losing streak, and now the schedule sets up favorably. At Tennessee, home against the Steelers, at Arizona. Now, again, your 7 wins. I think 9 puts you in a spot to at least be in tiebreaker scenario. 10 definitely gets you in. That's not that hard of a schedule. And now you see why Minnesota's having the tiebreakers is only just fractionally ahead of the Rams and Seahawks in the playoff probability standpoint. The Saints, meanwhile, again, their schedule not that daunting because there's only a couple good NFC teams if we're being honest here. At the Rams, they win that game, and now they kind of control their own destiny. At Bucks, home against Atlanta. If they lose against the Rams, the Saints' path kind of just becomes you got to win the NFC South. You got to win out against Tampa and Atlanta, which is very doable, and potentially get some help from Tampa along the way. All right, so those are the 7 win teams. I'll make brief note here, a little bit longer than that, I suppose. Of the 4 remaining teams who are still in the playoff picture, here are the playoff odds and probabilities, again, all per the New York Times Upshot Simulator. The Falcons at 6-8, a 7% chance. It's, again, what I like about the NY Times, the New York Times version of it all, is that they include, like, hey, who do you play? What are your probabilities? Falcons just benched Desmond to go back to Taylor Heineke. They're home against Indy. They're going to be dogs in that one. At Chicago, at the Saints. That's a tough schedule there down the stretch. The Packers are a little bit higher because they have the Panthers this week, a game they should win, and then they go on the road against Minnesota. If they can win both of those games, all of a sudden they kind of take it back from the Vikings in terms of the playoff race, and then they host the Bears to wrap up the season. The Giants and Bears, by the way, they could win out and still get left out, which doesn't put them in very good shape. That's why their odds are so low. Back to the NFC South here. Who wins? B for the Bucs, S for the Saints, F for the Falcons. Sound off in the comments section. Did want to make a quick note, by the way. Giants and Bears are out with a playoff loss and a Rams win. There are actually other scenarios involved there, but they're all kind of more complicated. So, again, matter of when, not if, most likely. The Commanders, Cardinals, and Panthers are already out of the playoff race, as it's going to be a fun wild card finish. We'll come all the way down to the final. It's just the week of the season, just the way the NFL likes it.